Okay, good afternoon, San Bernardino. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm sorry, I was on mute. So we're gonna start over and then I'll crop out that first part. Thank you guys for jumping in. This is going to be a recount of what happened last night. And we're going to go over my experience, what I witnessed inside of the call of the meeting, the seating situation, and what other people had to go through. Okay, there we go. Uh, Um, yes, if you guys can hear me now. Thank you. Sorry about that. So, let me jump into the next slide. Here we go. Okay, so 3 days ago, the city of San Bernardino put out an updated invitation, as we have all been following since May 2nd, when the city put out their announcement that they were going to charge residents and the public at large $75 a piece to attend a public meeting, which is the state of the city has always been held, and that has always been open to the public without a charge. And immediately, we had 60 members of the public reach out to the city questioning this. And then on May 8th, they sent out an update saying, we're going to give you guys an update to come about how you'll be able to get a complimentary ticket to the city of San Bernardino's State of the City. So May 28th comes 2 days before this event, 20 days after the city has questioned how you're charging. And they say there's going to be 50 complimentary tickets available to the public. And that starting at 5 o'clock, the public can come and get their tickets into the meeting, but you cannot enter this reception. So before the actual State of the City address, there was in the courtyard, when you drive up to the Hilton, there is a courtyard and there was this reception area. Those who paid were allowed into the reception area, and those who were not, as the address says, were only going to be allowed in 10 minutes before the beginning of the State of the City address. And that's what they did. But here's the thing. The next day, on May 29th, the city, because 4 voting members of the city council were going to be in attendance, they had to agendize this meeting. And the thing is that the meeting started at 5:45 p.m. So again, I'm going to go right back. You're telling the public that that if you did not pay to come to this public meeting, you will not be allowed to come in until 5:50, even though the meeting is posted for 5:45 to begin. So that was an issue. And it leads into the other issue of what exactly happened after that. And I want to show you so this is a pic, if you guys saw on the tracker that Gina L had posted. If it says on there that the admission begins at 5:50 p.m. for those who did not pay. You can't do that. You cannot do that. And what happened was they told me the same thing. When I arrived, I was like, hey, I'm here for my free ticket. I signed up to speak. The lady handed me the ticket. It was like, now you have to wait out here. You cannot go past these tables. I said, what are you talking about? You can't deny me access. And truly and honestly, all I did was I walked in, and the commotion behind me from the city employees was, dude, that's Treasurer Ortiz. You don't want to do that. That's not fair. That is not fair, because other members of the public, who people may or may not have known their names, had to wait outside. And that is against the law. It's illegal to restrict the public access to what other people right in front of us. And this wasn't like you were in some private area. We were watching 100 people stand together in a courtyard enjoying, alcoholic beverages and non-alcoholic beverages and having a good time. That is unreal discrimination. So as we are standing in the courtyard, The doors are locked. So we're outside. There's a door to the left, which would lead you into the big room. And then there's one little access door that is a tab only. And I'm talking to people, and it's now 5:47 p.m. And I'm like, hey, like, where am I going to get to give my public comment? I thought we were going to give public comments, either in the big room or, then on the agenda, they said they're going to put us in this private room. So I see a service access person go in, and I followed behind, and I see Fred Charette. And this is, so you guys see where the council's lined up. This is the room that we're in. I see Fred Charette, and I said, hey, are we giving public comments? Like, no one's told us we can come in here yet. And Thomas Rice, the guy you see in the beginning, he's like, well, yeah, don't you see that the council's here? And I was like, okay. So I walk in, and Helen Tran is in there, Fred Charette, Damon Alexander, and then Theodore Sanchez walks in, and Councilwoman Calvin hadn't arrived yet. So I go and I sit down. All the city staff is in there. It's just me and the city staff and the elected officials. And the city clerk announces, yes, we have four public speakers. So I'm the only one in there. And I say, you know what, guys, the door's locked and they don't know to come in here. And the city attorney, Thomas Rice, turns to me and starts yelling at me and says, don't they know to come in here, Treasurer? Isn't the agenda posted, Treasurer? Isn't the name of the room on the agenda, Treasurer? And I was like, whoa, like, I said, you guys, everybody's standing in that courtyard and they don't know where this is. The doors are locked. Isn't it properly posted, Treasurer? Didn't you see the addenda? And I was like, why are you yelling at me? I'm in the room. I'm just letting you know the tickets say you cannot come in until 5:50 p.m. and nobody knows. Like, it was unreal. I was being yelled at, and like the city attorney's looking at me, the people in the room are like, and then he turns around and the city clerk is saying, we're making an announcement in the courtyard. Helen Tran is like, so we have no quorum because Councilwoman Calvin's not there. This is not a meeting. This is unofficial, right? There's nothing. And Thomas is like, yes, there's no quorum. There's no quorum, because they know that they're in trouble, right? They know that this has been a public meeting. They're about ready to get busted. And within 30 seconds, Councilwoman Calvin comes walking in. Thomas is just acting a fool, almost runs right into her. She walks in the room. And he's like, wow, we have quorum. There's quorum. You guys, I kid you not, this was like the most dramatic 5 minutes of life ever. And here's what gets me. For those of you that did sign up that didn't get to speak, he then stretches out his arms once Councilwoman Calvin is in the room, and he shuts the doors. So it's me and the city council that showed up, the mayor and city staff in this closed room. I'm like, this is a public meeting. The city clerk walks around, as you guys can hear in the video that I posted, and says there's 4 public comments, and I'm the only one sitting there. I give my public comment, of which Fred Charette, drinking whatever he's drinking in his cup, is not paying any attention, could care less. Theodore Sanchez was listening. Damon was staring off into space. Councilwoman Calvin's listening. And if you're noticing, Mayor Tran is absolutely unequivocally upset, just angry as angry can be. And they cut my public comment. I'm the only person in the room to 2 minutes. So telling them, like, this is against the law. You violated the Brown Act. You're in a public meeting. You've charged people. You can't do that. And you've received sponsorship. City staff is there, and we're going to get into this. Like, what are you doing? We need an investigation. And I want to be very clear about something, because I had a chance to speak to Theodore Sanchez before the meeting. I've spoken to Councilwoman Calvin. I've had people reach out, and they've spoken to Damon about this. The council, and Sandra Barr had said this on the live, the council had nothing to do with the state of the city. Nothing. It has never been agendized back since June of 2023. And I meant to say 2023 in my public comment, when Theodore Sanchez and Fred Charette were both the ones who were like, hey, we want to make sure this is about the public. This is about a proper budget. They had nothing. This has all been maneuvered by Mayor Tran and Charles Montoya. That was it. This was all, and so we got to pull all the public records, which I told them we're going to do. We need to see where the money went. Helen Tran was using her reelection campaign to promote this so that you could buy a ticket and donate to her campaign account. As you guys will see, there were sponsorships. There was a lot of stuff that went down, and this is all. Now, Thomas Rice, after yelling at me, breaks into a cold sweat once quorum has been established and once this public meeting has been called, because they knew. I want you guys to understand this, and I always think it's very telling of what people say versus what the information they put out there, is that they knew that the Attorney General of California had already said that if there is a quorum of public officials, this is a public meeting. What they had been banking on, and they said this before Councilwoman Calvin got into the room. Fred Charette said, well, where is she? She's the reason we even have to call this meeting now that she wanted to show up. Where's Calvin at? They had been planning this. They thought they were going to be able to skirt around the law, because this is why BB&K must come up. This is why we have to go out for an RFP and find a different city attorney, because BB&K had been trying to make sure that councils weren't going to be there so that they could continue with this charade of how they were going to get around charging the public. As long as less than 4 council members were going to be there, and they were checking, they were like, hey, how many of you are planning to show up, that they were going to be able to do this. And it was going to become a private event using public funds, but they were going to be able to say, well, sorry guys, we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't have to follow the rules. This like City of Bell, right? This is what happens. This is how we break the law. And then when you watch, I didn't think Helen or Thomas could go any paler, but they did once quorum was established and once the meeting was called. And so this is why I'm the only speaker, because they made sure that those who were not paid to be there were not allowed in that room. It was awful. It was awful to witness. Then the doors open up. Thomas comes over to me and he's like, I'm sorry, I yelled at you. It's really hot in here and there's a lot going on. And I'm like, hey bro, like, look, I'm just trying to tell you, people were not allowed into this meeting. Nobody knew to come in here, do what you're gonna do with that information. So then we walk, it's 6 o'clock, and we walk into the room where they're hosting the State of the City. And some of you guys didn't see this because they were not live streaming. The TV station, I guess only one link that was provided out was the actual link that worked. So I know people were very frustrated. So what I want to show you is what happened. When you walk into the room, on both sides of this very long room, in the corner were chairs lined up. And there was a little travel pack of goldfish and some fruit snacks and a program. At the tables, they were all set up for dinner. If you did not pay, you were put into the corner with your fruit snacks and your goldfish. And if you were a paying member, you sat at a table. This was the most awful feeling for the people who could not have afforded to attend, that were able to obtain a ticket. And it's not about the food. I need to make sure that we understand this, because I'm going to use the analogies that the people were there that gave it to me. It wasn't that people were like starving that didn't get a chance to eat. That wasn't what it was about. The way that the lady was next to me at a table had said is, what it feels like is sitting and eating in front of a child. It feels like you've given people access to something and you're punishing other people for not having for not being able to pay for your presence, is really what this came down to. And it got to the point, you guys, where like the people at the tables were handing the people in the chairs like the cheesecakes and the salads. They felt awful. And it shouldn't have to be like that. And it's disgusting, horrible behavior. I don't have any other way of describing, until the fact that I had to get up because the meeting started, right? And this is all, you guys, inside of a public meeting. This is an agendized public meeting, a presentation, item number 1 of the special meeting of the city of San Bernardino, where they get up and they tell people like, okay, we did their introductions. And then they're like, and now we're going to go spend 20 minutes eating. And half the tables didn't have people at them. So there really was more than enough space for other people. In fact, people from the table started inviting those, and I think there were, I don't know how many people ended up being left. I know I was ticket number 9, so there may have been 10 or 12 people were invited to come sit at the tables. They weren't served dinner. It was disgusting, and someone has said something that was so it really hit, and I want to relay what they said, is that leaders eat last. And I watched Helen Tran sit down and parade herself around this room like she was the most important person there, and did not care about the least of the community. Because honestly, the people that were going to come to this event are the stakeholders, the developers, the contract holders, the businesses, the nonprofits, people that need that connection. What they did was disenfranchise and push out the regular person, the average community member. And there was not a single person, high schooler in that room that wasn't there volunteering for service hours. So this wasn't like the youth were going to be there. And there was actually a really sad narrative about the fact that our kids can't get jobs right now because of the economy that we've established. Not okay. Not okay. Here's the other thing, and this is not a hit to staff, but I want you to understand that city staff was present and they ate for free. They didn't pay. They were given tables to attend. They don't live here. Mayor Tran sponsored out of her own political campaign a table. She was a sponsor of this public meeting event. And did she sponsor a table for anybody that may not have afforded to be there? No. No, she did not. Because why do you care about people who can't contribute to your campaign? Why do you care about the people that are struggling? Why would you do that? It was bad. It just was. It was really, really bad, especially given the fact that the entire economic report was more about the Inland Empire than it was the city of San Bernardino. That what it says is we've created an economy that benefits those with little to no skill in a logistics area. And because of the lack of strong investments in our community, they're able to survive because our housing market has not boomed the way that other people have in surrounding areas. That's what it says. And if you're between 18 and 30 right now, you have the least opportunity for jobs, because in a minimum wage market, which we've established as a majority of our community of being minimum wage workers, adults are now the highest competitors of what used to be teenage and young adult jobs starting out. And that our lack of available housing is the only really thing that's sustained us in keeping people to our area. We have, when people are moving out because of the multi-generational homes, the houses fill, which is why rent skyrockets the way it does, because they know that it's a commodity. And it was hard to witness. It was really hard to see that, this is where we're at, and watch people stand and applaud on being mediocre at best, and wanting to pretend like all of these amazing things are happening. And the mayor really said the narrative is San Bernardino has become a pit stop. You come in, you stop here for gas, you buy some snacks, and then you go everywhere else. And the opportunities that are available to us with our university and our local college, while we have over 30,000 students, what do we have available to them for their future? Nothing. Warehouses. So the State of the City address was a fluff and fold, because we have no downtown redevelopment. That was killed. We have no community benefits agreement. We have an injunction that completely kills our ability to address homelessness. We have no strong economic forecasting for large corporations or businesses to come here. Yeah. So that was what the state of the city was. And you guys, we could be so much more because the industries around us, Cal State, Valley, Yamava, the airport, they're all doing great. They're doing their thing. And what I saw was the city trying to piggyback off of other people's hard work and not their own, because we're failing in infrastructure improvements. We're not taking advantage of our geothermal base. We're not building housing. We're not investing into our youth. So that was the message. So where are we going and what are we doing from here? Well, because this was a meeting, because of everything that has transpired, the letter that was sent out yesterday was a cure and correct. What the community and I have asked for is that they refund every single person that paid for a ticket. These tables were sponsored. This was a public meeting, and you cannot charge, so they need to fix that. And also we need to call, I've asked the council to reach out and start an investigation into the mayor and into the city manager, Montoya, of what they were doing, how funds were used, where did the $75 per person go, how much were each of the sponsorships, and where was this money collected, and what accounts were they put into? How is it that the mayor was able to use her reelection campaign as well as become a political sponsor of a public meeting and event? And where do we go from here? And we need to hold BB&K responsible. The city attorney is running amok. They help do whatever it takes not to follow the law, to exclude the community. They make millions upon millions of dollars for every wrongdoing that our city and our city council perpetrate. And we can't sustain ourselves this way. It is unreal. So I will be calling upon the city council to start an RFP process. It's been well over a decade since we have looked into what services and the type of city attorney we need here in San Bernardino. We need to make sure that this is a council manager form of government. Our city council should never be excluded from the major decisions that are taking place or the larger conversations, especially the state of the city. So I just want to touch base. It was a lot last night. My heart really broke for our community and the disdain that Mayor Tran has for the working class, regular residents and children of our community. Could care less. And I don't care how much you scream and shout, you cannot change the reality of what this is. And while you may tell everybody to go eat cake, while you know they're starving out there, that's the attitude John Valdivia had towards this community, and look where he's at. So thank you guys. I appreciate you. Please just share this because I want everybody to understand how the community really was treated last night. The excluding, restricting people to give public comments, treating them like they were nothing if they did not have money, and trying to create a false narrative that doesn't exist here. We cannot change things in San Bernardino if we refuse to face our reality. And we have all the potential in the world to be an all-America city again. We just have to have the right leadership in place to do that. So thank you guys and have a wonderful rest of your day and a great weekend. Thank you.